when I finally got like more of like the
I don't even
modern
want to listen to this.
I know.
Be
Back
right
when I
back.
got more of the modern generation
I'll be right back.
consoles at the time, like I think just GameCube. I got a GameCube at the time. And then the friend who just left, he had like an Xbox and a PS2. So we kind of had our bases covered with all of the newer consoles. I had dozens of Sega Genesis games that I got for free just from like random family members and stuff like that growing up. And my stupid idiot kid brain was like, oh, we don't need all these old games anymore. We have all the new stuff. And I invited him and one of my other friends over, and we literally just destroyed a gigantic bag worth of, I know, worth of old Sega Genesis games. And like, I have a I have a very vivid memory of taking the controllers by the cord and just like slamming them against the ground. Yeah. Also, on the note that you made, Maple, as well, like, specifically that is a lot of the reason I actually kind of ended up picking a squirrel. Like, the area that I live in, it's like in New England, and the 4 seasons are very dramatic here, like snowy winters, very orange leaf autumn, like the whole 9 yards as far as that goes. And like, I'm not a super active person, like I'm not the type of person to like jog every day or anything like that, but I like being outside. Like I used to bike around my hometown a lot growing up. I grew up in a very pretty hometown, and to me squirrels just yes. And that's actually how I know him, because we grew up together and went to high school together. But like squirrels to me kind of felt like that, like almost generic nature avatar, for lack of a better way to put it. Like they just kind of like exist and adapt around nature, and they don't really intrude on much. And they're visually appealing, visually cute. If I were to pick one specific story that came to me in like a very specific part of my life that spoke to me a lot when I played it, is the game Mother 3. Because without like spoiling anything like big picture about the game or whatever, the story of the game basically starts off that you're in like a really quiet village where basically nothing happens and everybody's super friendly with each other. And then like a random set of invaders come in that you later find out a lot more about, and they basically just start ruining everything. They start like messing with the wildlife. It's like clear that they want to like basically colonize and set up base there and stuff. And it ultimately ends with like the mother character dying. My mother is not dead. Before I get too far ahead with that, but it was around the time.
Wow, way to brag, dude. Goddamn.
My mom's not dead. When that happens, it kind of sets the plot off in a direction where like Lucas, the main character in the game, the character that everybody knows from Smash, it basically kind of like sets off the story for him to be like very independent on his own. And the story is just kind of about him like going out to kind of... He's basically forced into adulthood and responsibility very quickly, while also kind of finding a lot of found family. And that was just kind of also around the same time that I was moving out of the house for the first time and kind of getting separated from my family as well. So it just kind of had that parallel of like, oh, I guess I'm just out on my own now trying to figure things out with the people that I meet along the way. And also, well, again, my mom is not dead. She went from being, like, my mom raised me as a single mom, so it was like, she was a huge part of my life basically all the time, and it was a very weird feeling not being around her nearly as much. So again, not dead, but still kind of had that same feeling of like, oh, I'm just like me on my own now, without that kind of like security factor there all the time. But yes, no, I would definitely highly, highly, highly recommend checking out the game. And the good news is that it was never localized, so there's no legal way to play it, so you can emulate it and not feel guilty at all. Assuming emulation ever made you feel guilty. I think, just as like a small tangent, I think that's something that I've actually really liked about the fighting game community as a whole, is at least when you're like with actual people, and it's not just like internet weirdos like talking into the void on Twitter or something. Everybody in the fighting game community is really nice. I feel like for the most part, they're really just all about like inviting new people in who are passionate about the game and helping them learn. And that definitely goes more so for in-person events. It's like pretty rare for there to be a toxic person at in-person events, because if they're actually that toxic, then they will just get kicked out.
I will say there are some toxic individuals in the fighting game community that I do find funny as fuck for their toxicity.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not like, you know, shit-talking and stuff like that will always be like a part of like competitive everything. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like the reason that I got into fighting games in the first place is because it was like during Smash 4 when that came out, and like I just started going to local events with some friends of mine, and everybody was super duper duper friendly, and just like it was just fun to get to know people and get better with people, and they wanted to help me learn and I wanted to help them learn. Wish you could get more into fighting games. Yeah, I feel that. It really is one of those things where it takes like it takes a certain kind of patience to deal with like you're going to lose a lot trying to take like what you're supposed to learn out of that instead of getting like too caught in your own head about it. And I do not blame anybody who doesn't want to put themselves through that, or like that's just a hard thing for them to like do personally.
The especially tough thing about fighting games, especially in comparison to other like competitive games, is that a lot of team games are people stick with them, but they'll kind of offload the blame when it comes to like performance.
So that is actually, I would argue, like one of the #1 reasons I got into fighting games in the first place.
Yeah,
I saw so many of my friends playing like League of Legends and like shooters and stuff growing up, and even as friends, I feel like all I saw was everybody yelling at each other and blaming each other for stuff. So when I realized that fighting games were a genre where they're like, you know, short of complaining about characters or stages or like whatever you want to complain about there, like there's really nothing to blame but just like what you did with your buttons. I was like, that sounds way more appealing. Like I want to kind of get that like, excuse me, very black and white feedback of like what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'd call myself a casual fighting game player. I usually play for the single player content and then to play with friends like in a room, you know?
Yeah.
So
I think the moment what's up?
I was gonna say I that's why like the new Street Fighter game seems appealing to me because it has like character customization and stuff like that, like emotes and shit that you can have fun with. I like features like that. You know?
What was I gonna say? Oh, got mixed up.
Casual player?
Casual player.
Oh.
I think like the moment where you realize that like your like more hardcore investment into fighting games has started to pay off is when the single player content gets like borderline worthless to you.
Oh, definitely.
Like playing against computers is such like a like literally not what I'm playing the game for, because they just act so they act in a way that like doesn't like teach me anything. Like while I'm playing it, I'm just like, well, I don't know, the computer decided whether or not it was going to block there. I didn't make like a smart decision or have a smart decision done back to me. And then there's just like a higher level of tech that like computers and fighting games just like, unless, or like moment to moment like tech and thought processes and stuff like that, that like, unless an intense amount of work was put into making it seem that way, like, just isn't how any single player fighting game works. So long story short, I met a new friend pretty recently, which I actually didn't know at first that he was a streamer. He kind of like let me in on it eventually, because it like, he didn't want to like promote it everywhere or whatever. Oh, I met a new friend. didn't know he was a streamer when I met him. It's not like I met him like as a streaming friend. But he like already has a decent sized following and stuff. So like we just kind of started talking in general, and he wanted to help me out a decent amount. And it was like half him throwing some raids my way, and half he did like a big subathon to raise money for his partner moving in with him. And I didn't do it with the intentions of like using it as a way to advertise myself. But once I was on there, he was obviously shouting me out, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm affiliate now. But also his community is really cool and cute, and it was honest, like, I don't know, now they know me, and I know them. So it all just kind of worked out. Oh, hey, what's up?
Like...
So this is, when I went to that VR chat party for a little bit the other day, basically the only person I talked to while I was there. I couldn't do a ton of talking just because it was like pretty late at night, but
I need to get on that VR chat train sometime.
But yeah, I keep wanting to like apologize over and over for being like as quiet as I was. It was kind of like a mix of like I'm kind of bad at like even real parties anyway. Like a lot of the times I end up kind of just squirreling myself away in a corner a little bit. Teehee. But then on top of that, I was being like late night roommate courteous. But that was honestly pretty neat. I haven't really done much public anything in VR chat yet. It's mostly just been me and you, like going to random worlds and stuff.
True. It's hard, you know, like because
yeah.
I get the like social anxiety with VR and stuff, and like I haven't gotten used to like how the socializing works in VR chat yet. Like who enjoys being approached, who doesn't, etc.
To be fair, that's what like I assume to some extent what like the social features are for, like being able to set where your comfort level is at. I always try to approach new people and have a convo since I know most people. Yeah, I got the impression that you probably knew at least most people that were there. It seemed like you were bopping around a lot.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that, because I'm the opposite, and I am bad at approaching new people. I will say, so far my only real experience with going, like, just on my own social into a random server was, it was like the Chow Garden one. That was a mistake.
Oh, why?
I bumped into one person there, and they were doing, like, silly Sonic roleplay voice, and I just, like, awkwardly, like, didn't even know what to do. I really only do Friends Plus Worlds. Yeah, that... Oh, because I never got any more lives, so my lives were still at... But yeah, Friends Plus Worlds makes a lot of sense. And I'm, like, still trying to see which of my friends actually even has it and uses it pretty frequently.
I just show up in my Citizen Lane outfit.
Yeah.
Hey, how's everybody going?
You at least need a Fursona so you can pretend to be a furry so you can fit in.
True. The only furry outfit I have is the one that they put in the Fizzbones avatar world.
Oh yeah.
The like, hey, here's how tails work and here's how ears work.
Yeah. There are many public furry avatars. Yeah, I mean that's basically how I cheated and got mine. Was we just went on that search world. I think I just vaguely searched for Pokemon and just like browsed the first couple pages. And most of them were like almost literally ripped models or just something that didn't look super exciting. And then I saw the extremely stylized Zangoose model and was like, ooh. I kind of always had a soft spot for Zangoose as it was, but now I guess I really have a soft spot for Zangoose. Okay, I'm just going in a circle. This is where these hub worlds kind of suck. I actually have to pay attention to get to the next stage. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of my favorite Pokemon like start as just a design I really like, and then I end up like maybe using it in a game or just finding like a character or something that I really like of the Pokemon, and then I get way more attached to it. But with Zangoose, I never really had that, like, aha moment with it. But I have a funny feeling that that's changing. I played A Hat in Time with the Brakes mod. I think I actually have that downloaded. But yeah, that's honestly a perfect example of what I mean. Where, like, all it takes is kind of that one thing to get you way more attached to a Pokemon.
I remember when I was really young, like 10 plus years ago, I used to like Mudkips a lot because of the Mudkip meme.
See, now that's retro.
True.
Right, yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, the card game. That's actually a super good example. Maybe you'll just run a deck with like a random-ass Pokemon you'd never care about otherwise. Infernape. Yeah, I think... What's a Pokemon that I got attached to? Hariyama. I've always, like... I don't know, it's a weird-ass Pokemon, but I used it with, like, competitive Pokemon at one point. And I've just kind of loved it ever since. As, like, this weird-ass muscle man Pokemon. Not exactly the Pokemon I identify myself with, but I like it a lot as a Pokemon now. Let's go Amy. Uh-huh. The sales were super low in comparison to Japan. Not really being interested in the competitive relationship between the player and the devs. Yeah, that was like a whole thing.
Yeah, I do remember that the lead dev was kind of like shit-talking the old games.
Yeah, he was literally... I think he almost literally called old Dante, like, lame and gay, or like something... Like, not that explicitly, but it might as well have been. Like, it was basically something along the lines of, like, they want Dante to be more, like, cool and masculine.
Yeah, I guess they did like a little slideshow showing what he is like and what he is not like, and the what he is not like at one point literally had a picture of Brokeback Mountain.
Oh my god, okay, that's actually way worse than I thought.
Yeah. He is not like Brokeback Mountain, he is like Fight Club. He is very, very tough and masculine and manly.
Yeesh. This Dante is extremely straight. They made sure you knew, because he has sex with all of the women.
This Dante is not like Brokeback Mountain.
This Dante is not like Brokeback Mountain, exactly. I have to say, you've been making me want to try out streaming late, so even if it sounds cringe to say you're a streamer I look up to, oh, thank you so much. I'm glad. I think...
That's sweet.
I think a lot of it is that... I guess for me, I mean, obviously I don't know what, like, the big advice is for everybody. I'm just doing this to have fun, more than anything. I just have, like... I mean, I guess you saw in the Discord, like, the post that I made. I just kind of like a lot of stupid games, and I like showing them to people, and I can only show them to my close friends so many times. Or even then, like, even if, like, a lot of my friends know about the weird games I like, maybe I haven't had the chance to show them all directly, so, like... Definitely just do it for the fun of showing people stuff. But that definitely means a lot, thank you. And I'm glad that you've been able to swing by as much as you have. I think, honestly, I think you were the first person that really swung by one of my streams and, like, actually wanted to have a full conversation about stuff. Because occasionally, once in a blue moon, somebody would swing by me playing a game, but, like, sometimes they were only there for, like, 2 seconds just to, like, see the game being played. Sometimes they were there to, like, give advice for a little bit, but didn't stick around, but... Especially for people like me who just, like, for the most part, especially at the time, it was just kind of my friends swinging by, that stuff means a ton.
I'm not sure. I don't know if I'll stream again. I tried to stream for a while, and I think my, like, social anxiety kind of got the best of me at a certain point. I never really kept up with it.
It can be very weird when things are smaller, too. Like, where... There's definitely, like, a decent period of time where, unless you, like, always have somebody on voice chat with you, which I've been pretty fortunate about. Thank you guys, obviously. You can just kind of feel like you're talking to the void, and that can be, like, super lame.
Yeah,
and
that's
like
basically how I felt. I was like, I'm kind of talking to myself at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm acting like I'm not talking to myself. I'm acting like someone's actually listening to me.
Yeah. More than anything, I can't help but get this feeling, or I couldn't help, like, get this feeling that, like, I would be like streaming one day, and I'd be like in the mode where like I was trying to pretend like people were actually watching, and one person comes into the chat and is gonna be like, "Oh, this guy is just talking to himself right now." Like, woo.
Yeah, I basically had the same thought.
Yeah, it's hard not to, which is why I really like having people on the voice chat and stuff, because then it's like, even if literally nothing is happening, like at least we're just kind of talking like we'd normally be talking, like if we were doing the same thing, playing the same game, except it was like in a Discord voice call.
Yeah, that too, Chip, for sure.
I feel like
my text is very important.
I feel like talking to yourself also expends more energy because, yeah, like you just kind of like have to hope you can like spin off on random stuff instead of having literally even just one person to bounce off of. Ooh. Came to the stream because I just finished streaming this game to a huge audience of 0 people. I know how it feels. I've like only really recently just started having like more regular people come in that I can force to watch random games that I like. But one of the first games that I played on stream, like back when I started, was the Afro Samurai game for PS3. And there was 0 chance of anybody finding that stream. I just kind of streamed it to stream it. Who did my OC? So it goes back a little bit. The short answer is that in full, it's very heavily based on how I actually look like. For a very long time, like the main Sona that I kind of used for everything was almost literally just me with like a fox ear and tail, which was definitely somewhat of like a, like, I still like the design a decent amount, but it was definitely somewhat of like a, definitely I'm not a furry guy's move of like my middle school self. And I don't know like necessarily what inspired me to come up with a new design. I guess it was just kind of something that had been on my mind for a bit, and I was kind of just getting more comfortable with the furry stuff in general and whatnot. And I kind of came up with like a general design sheet of some ideas that I had for it. Of kind of like, you know, I had like a couple different like animal ideas on the table for it, and ultimately decided I liked the idea of squirrels. And for a while I couldn't really do anything with the design sheet just because I'm not, or you know, I'm practicing doing art a little bit more, but for a while I knew that I couldn't actually bring any of the design ideas to paper. And what I ended up doing was reaching out to a... Ooh, I'm almost dead. Reaching out to a small artist named Crazy Fox Lady, who's been in this chat a couple of times. I don't think she's been in this chat since you've been here. And she was honestly, like, insanely nice, because originally I was just kind of... Whoa, don't be my first death. I didn't even directly ask her to help with, like, bringing the design to life, but she was, like, really excited to do it. I basically caught her, like, right before she started to, like, get significantly more of a following for herself. Because I think I just found her ages ago, just because I liked her style. And it was kind of hard for me to find somebody with a style that I really wanted to get art with. Because I was in this weird in-between where, like, my design that I had was largely something that was seen in anime. Just like the person with ears and tail. But, like, I wasn't super attached to the anime style. So I didn't want to commission somebody who did, like, an anime-heavy style. But then you look at most furry artists, and they don't really have human examples. So I was like, can I trust that you can draw a decent human? But I found her, like, a super long time ago at this point. Because I did like how she drew both. And at this point, I'm just friends with her, especially after she helped me with that. Like, after she helped me with that is when we started chatting a lot more. And she's actually in the middle of helping me with my partner's new design that we're coming up with.
Oh, that's cool.
I might have told this story before, but like... Oh, I'll let this go. I once went to a concert at a Goth Club, because that's where it was being held. It was for,
Right in.
yeah. Yeah, especially because I was supposed to go with like a couple people, and then everybody bailed on me, and I'm like, I'm not gonna miss this concert, so I guess I'm going to a goth club alone as Derek. But it was for what's it called? Voltaire, if you've ever heard of him before. Most people, like, if they've probably heard his stuff, it's because he did the Brain song from Billy and Mandy. But he's also just actually a super good artist. I think that's how I found him. Like, I just, like, found the song on YouTube, in, like, early YouTube. And then, like, started hearing other stuff that he did. He played in Salem, which is fitting. But, before he started performing, it was, like, an actual goth club. And at one point, they played the song that plays in the intro of this game. And I was just like, huh. I guess I'm vibing to DMC Devil May Cry music. If it was worth it, that's awesome. It was worth it. I definitely want to see him again someday. And he still comes to this area because I live pretty close to, like, Salem, Massachusetts, and he is one gothy performer, so he apparently loves coming. Yeah, he loves coming to the spooky city. Also, every single time I swing my sword, it is me shaking the Wiimote. So hopefully this game is shorter than my wrists are sturdy. Gotta go carpal tunnel. So that's the problem. I already have carpal tunnel. I tend to be pretty smart with it at this point, because it's been a running issue for a pretty long time now. I know the ways of the carpal tunnel. Ooh. Yeah, long story short, I'm pretty sure that I got pretty bad carpal tunnel, because when Smash for 3DS came out, that was most of what I played it on, because I played it like in college with friends and stuff like that. And with my 3DS, or with my original 3DS, I had this like cool hand grip thing that made it way more comfortable to hold. But that was around when the new 3DS came out, so I got a new 3DS. And for a really long time, they didn't have a solid one of those. So I was just kind of like, whatever, I'm just gonna keep playing. And then when my hands started to cramp, I just didn't care, because nothing that big had ever really happened to me before. And I didn't really think that hard about it. Yeah, the Pro Controller is super comfortable. That's what I use for everything, except for this right now, where I'm using a Wiimote. And I do have like a dedicated controller for playing fighting games. Since then I've gotten a fight stick and I've been fine with that. Fight sticks kind of kill me, so that's kind of surprising. I ended up getting a fight pad, as they're called, where it's like basically just a controller. It kind of looks like, what is it, like the 6-button Sega Genesis controllers. But I like it a lot. It has a very clicky D-pad stick type thing. A hitbox? No, let me pull up a picture of it real fast. You. Razor Ryan, I think it's called. I always forget how to spell it. Yeah, here it is. Where it's like, it looks like the 360 D-pad almost, where it's kind of like a circle. But it has a switch for each direction, so it's like it's effectively like a regular D-pad that has like a little click for each direction you go on. So it's very tactile. I like it a lot. I've basically just been building an MP3 collection since middle school, and that is entirely how I listen to my music. Mostly because a lot of it's from video games, and plenty of it from pretty obscure video games. So even if I wanted to use something like Spotify, it just like wouldn't even be practical or possible in some cases. Like I'd have to use like YouTube for some of them. And then video game soundtracks are so weird with like how obnoxiously they get taken down from places like YouTube, or even Spotify for that matter. Like there are plenty of soundtracks that are on Spotify that just aren't available to everybody for some reason.
The Tekken acoustic guitar tracks are a good example of that. I saved them, and then they just disappeared one day.
Oh yeah.
So my plan is after I'm done building my computer, that's when I'm downloading all the music.
Nice. I kept losing the music, so I gave them to lazy services. Yeah, I think I kind of lucked out with just how things happened through the years, where like, one, I was pretty lucky with my computers not just like straight up crashing on me or anything, so I never lost like a substantial amount of data at once. But two, I always had it in more than one place at once because of the whole micro SD card thing. So, like, even if I had a computer that failed on me, which I'm pretty sure has happened before, like, the entirety of my updated collection would just be on my micro SD card anyway, so I didn't have anything to worry about. At least with my music collection specifically.
The other nice thing too is that there's now services dedicated to cloud saving in case you lose it.
Yes, that's true, which I have not invested in. Not the worst idea, but... But yeah, there are just some soundtracks that just, like... are... Oh, that was crappy. They're on streaming services, but sometimes you just can't listen to them. Like, what was the one? Oh, Sonic Rush. We were gonna look up the Sonic Rush soundtrack on Spotify, because I think, like, they just wanted to add a song that I was listening to or something. And it was on there, but it, like, wasn't available in our country. And I'm like, okay. This is why I don't use Spotify. I remember watching a YouTube video at one point that was kind of like... It was almost like a weird rant video, just kind of talking about how, like, a lot of winter music in video games will just kind of default to using jingle bells as, like, a signifier of, like, yep, this is the winter stage because we got jingle bells. Or sleigh bells, I guess is the proper term for it. So I at least think about that a lot. Not in the context that that's actually something that bothers me. Because I guess I always kind of thought of sleigh bells as kind of like it almost felt like shaking the snow out of the sky or something. Like, that's kind of like what I always visualized what sleigh bells were supposed to be in winter music, even though that's obviously not their origins or anything. And they just kind of sound icy enough on their own. But it is interesting hearing songs that do focus a little bit more on, like, more icy sounds. Like, I guess when the song resets, you'll hear it again. This sound. It's just like a nice, like, crystally sound, and I can appreciate when winter songs go out of their way to do something like that. Okay, certified Derek history. So the reason that I've basically commandeered this as my own personal meme, even though it has nothing to actually do with me, is that this is, like, actually kind of how I listen to music. You came at a perfect time. We stopped playing games like 10-15 minutes ago, and now we're looking at this. And listening to Sonic music. So for context, the way that I've pretty much listened to music for the better part of the past, like, 15 plus years of my life is that I listen to a lot of video game music, and I specifically like to listen to it in playlists that, like, kinda sorta make sense for what they were designed for. So, like, I live in a place that has, like, a pretty dramatic 4 seasons. As far as, like, you know, very snowy winters, very nice warm summers, etc. So, like, I like having a playlist. Not this year, though, true. We haven't had, like, any snow this year. But, yeah, so, like, something like... I have, like, a couple of different playlists that are all very fitting for if it's, like, wintry or snowy outside. Or, you know, if it's just a nice summer day, or if I'm at the beach, or if it's raining outside. Like, I've basically downloaded all of my music over the years and, like, curated them into playlists that are kind of built like that. And that's, like, kind of a thing, at least, you know, to my friend group growing up, that I've always kind of been known for, because it's... I think that's a pretty weird way to listen to music, at least to some extent. Like, what's another... Or, you know what? Fuck it, we're doing Diamond Dust, too. I know it's not, like, weird to make, like, the moody playlists or anything, but I don't know, anytime I tell somebody that I build my playlist specifically with, like, the weather in mind like that, okay, I just take to the extreme. I always get weird reactions about it, even though it's just always how I've listened to my music. Because I kind of just, like... I kind of, like, took music growing up and went into my own little bubble with it. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. So for example, like, I don't really listen to music in albums because, again, a lot of it is, like, from places like video games or whatever. So, like, listening to an album from start to finish is a very weird thing to me, even though that's, like, the most normal thing in the world for how you're supposed to listen to music. I'm so used to listening to my music more so based on, like, atmosphere above most things that's usually how I go into listening to music. There's no rules, though. Yeah, and that's my biggest takeaway from it, is, like, I just kind of made my own rules because I just completely disconnected myself from how everybody I knew listened to music. That it turned into my own kind of weird... Again, at least relative to everybody around me, it kind of turned into my own weird thing.
Yeah, I listen to music in a similar way where I mainly single rather than full albums. I've just started listening to full albums like this year, while like at work and stuff, and it's definitely a different vibe.
I tend to be album focused from growing up on CDs or vibes, so from the musician's perspective, but not necessarily the listener's perspective. Yeah, I think there's definitely some merit to, like, the way they design something from front to back, and obviously sometimes that can be extremely deliberate. But that doesn't necessarily always, like, matter. Some of my earliest memories of listening to my own music is literally holding a tape recorder up to my TV and recording music from Banjo-Kazooie so I could listen to it on, like, the bus ride to school.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. I would kill to still have something like that. But I'm sure that is very long lost to time. As a teenager, I made a point to get into music, and that's where most of my music habits are from. Yeah, there's definitely, like, a lot of my friends were like that growing up, especially, I don't know if he's watching right now, my friend Josh, that's sometimes on voice chat. He's always been, like, big into, like, metal culture and stuff like that. And seeing that from my bubble, where I kind of, like, grew up listening to the music the way that I did, was always very weird. Like, all of, like, the dissecting of genres and, like, kind of just hyper-focusing on one genre in general. Like, I can definitely get obsessed with one, you know, and I have my preferences. But, like, getting into, like, a subculture totally based around that kind of thing is, like, something that makes a ton of sense, but was just so different than how I listen to music.
I wonder where one could find like a video game music subculture. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's like websites that archive it and stuff, but I don't know if there's much of like a subculture around it.
Yeah, unless you go to like some local indie thing where the band is playing like cover songs for music or something.
Yeah, and even then, I feel like usually those end up being like crowd pleasers.
True.
Like, oh, we're playing Wily's Castle from Mega Man 2, surprise! Like,
yeah,
super good song that's easy to cover and everybody recognizes.
You'd have to find like some like real underground stuff, I imagine. Like, yeah, like I don't know. I'm gonna butcher the fuck out of their name. Amanaguchi, the
Anamanaguchi.
Yeah, them. If you discovered somebody like them in their like super early days, that'd probably be like the subculture.
Yeah, that's like almost like a nerdcore thing more than it is like a, I don't know. Like I feel like there's almost a difference between like that kind of like weird like nerdcore type stuff, and then just listening to music because it like video game music because it's cute, because there's a lot of cute ass video game music. If that makes sense, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I don't really particularly consider myself a part of any subculture.
Oh, I still have this playlist up. Anyway, bringing that conversation full circle. That's why this playlist was such a huge, or that's why this comic was such a huge meme with me. I don't even know who first found it, but as soon as we saw it, we were like, "Oh my god!" They just drew Derek. Oh, also notable is that I'm also known for being like the one who got more into Sonic than most of our friend group, so it was like, okay, that's just Derek.